morning. The commissioners welcome public comment. Please note that the public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. There's a timer in front of my desk. It will be green until you have 3 minutes, or until you have 30 seconds left, at which time it will turn yellow. When your time is up, it will turn red. We ask that you please state your name and city of residence when you come up to the podium to give public comment. You are allowed to donate your time to another, but the maximum amount of time someone can have is 6 minutes. And I will know that we have a lot of written comment that has been turned in that will be included in the packet for today.
So what I want to do before we get into public comment, so hopefully most of you picked up, there's a sheet of paper where I have proposed new language. After doing some research on the rating system, I understand how difficult that would be, and then reading the standards with the American Library Association and what that would take would be difficult, but there is new proposed language that is up there, and hopefully we can have a discussion about policy creation in regards to that. So with that, if you weren't able to sign up on the sign-up sheet, I will give an opportunity at the end of the public comment period after we go through the sign-up sheets for you also to be able to offer public comment. What I am going to ask is whenever you speak into the mic, speak up, and I would ask anyone else that's using the mic, I know it's hard to hear in the very back, and so if we could just make sure that we speak extra loud so everyone can hear. With that, we'll move to public comment. First, we have Bishop Brooks.
Did you want me to get up and speak there or speak here?
Go ahead and speak right there. You just turn it on. And if there's a seat open for those that are standing, feel free to take one of the chair seats as well.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Usha Sahadiva. When I made a decision to speak here today, there were many thoughts that was spilling out of me. However, sharing them with all would take hours. I did have an extensive conversation with my daughter, who is a prolific reader, linguistics professor, and assistant dean of education, reading and writing at Texas State University. She informed me that, and I remember this, when she was in 6th grade, she read the specific book that was being shown on video. After 4 years in this county, and as I get ready to leave, I hope that even one thought I share with you today will stay with you and make you rethink, reevaluate, and re-educate yourself. There's a whole world out there, and I know change is hard to come by, but much needed for you to prosper and enlighten, and for enlightenment, not only as an individual, but as a county. Here is some of the information, and actually she did share with me the Library Bill of Rights, and what was adopted on June 30th, 2015 by the American Library Association. Censorship is not the commissioner's job. The censorship is the parent's job. We as parents are the ones who should be going to the library and checking on what our children read, what they pick up, and be open to have a conversation with them. This is what's sadly lacking. I'm sorry, I've been here for 4 years, and I've met a lot of children who feel that they can't talk to their parents on subjects that are very important to them. We have to be open. We have to accept the fact that there's like I said, a whole world out there. They have access to that world, and we are going to have to change. It's our job as the adults to change so that the children can enjoy themselves and grow up to be productive adults. In closing, I do have something that a friend of mine said to me today. If you stand for reason, be prepared to stand alone like a tree. And if you fall on the ground, fall like a seed, that grows back to fight again. And with that, there is one conclusion that, and this might sound really bad, but Commissioner Swope, you were elected to run the county. Please run the county and not dictate to us what censorship is all about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Mark Stevens.
Good morning. I'm Mark Stevens from Chehalis, and I've been a Timberland patron since 1986. I'm a dad of a teenager and a stepdad of 2 kids who are now grown adults. I don't think a book rating system is necessary, and I'm very much against it. It's against the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, which is our freedom of speech. I believe that parents are responsible for managing their children's use of the library, period, not a government agency. Every child and every family is unique, and I'm happy I was able to provide access to my kids to the library without a bureaucratic book rating system, and it worked well that way. I believe such a rating system will create additional unnecessary work for library staff. The library system already has existing policies that I have read in the last few days, and I agree with them because they're in alignment with protecting our freedom of speech and our intellectual pursuits as parents. They do support our parents' right to raise our children without government unnecessarily getting involved. Thank you.
Mark. April, not sure if this is Jones, Jones.
Jones. Yeah, that's me. April Jones. I've lived in New York.
April, will you push the button to the right, it'll turn it on. Thank you.
Okay, my name is April Jones. I've lived in Winlock for 38 years. I came here to talk about the fraudulent election, and I just wanted to say that in this county, it's the people in the county that are responsible for their elections, and we need to go back to same-day elections, paper ballots, verifiable signatures, because we really have had our elections stolen in 2020 and 2022 also. And these mechanisms of cheating, many of them are still in place. Some states are trying to change that. After the election results, some people went to work and said, hey, what happened here? Because it was a big surprise. And they took they had to do FOIA requests to get the cast vote records, and from the cast vote records, they reverse engineered the election results. And they found cheating like you wouldn't believe, and also the machines in the places that had machines had algorithms of who to count the votes for. And it just totally, that's why in the middle of the night, some of their people were not winning, and that's why they had certain places where they had water main breaks, and they sent the people out, sent them home, and then they had to recalibrate the counting because it was more counting against they had to recalibrate the computers to count more in the middle of the night, and that's why their ratings went up in the middle of the night. And it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe, but we have to fix our elections here. We have to fix them in this county too. Paper ballots or what, let's just go back a couple years to go into your local range, saying hi to your neighbor, and voting and having the signature verification. And anyway, there is hope. There is hope. And I'll just say that when we lost this last election, I'll give you a personal testimony. I was
You're
very
able to
upset.
send this up.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, Rebecca Stabler. If you have any comments on, the next person is Rebecca Stabler. If you have any comments on the proposed language that I put forward, you just say if you don't like it, or if you have anything to add as far as policy and stuff, I would love to hear that as well. Go ahead.
Rebecca Stabler. I'm a resident of the city of Centralia, and I'm here to speak against Commissioner Swope's proposal to establish a rating system for our local libraries. Our libraries provide a valuable service to the community. They offer equitable access to educational resources, computers and internet, information and research, and of course, the pleasure of reading. It doesn't matter if you have money, if you speak English, if you go to school, or if you come from a family of readers. Our libraries are and always have been available to all. We are so fortunate that they are run by people who are trained in their profession of guiding patrons to what will hopefully be a lifetime of learning and enjoying books. To address Commissioner Swope's video regarding a specific book, which by the way has won numerous awards, I just want to say that not every child has a parent or guardian who is available or able to talk about sex, or maybe it's death or drugs that's a difficult topic. I have a personal story. My mother left a book about sex on my nightside table when I was an adolescent because it wasn't a topic she felt comfortable talking about. Or maybe she understood I wouldn't feel comfortable talking to her. The book was easier, probably more accurate, and you know, it didn't make me want to go out and have sex. Books don't groom, they inform. I could go on, there's lots to say, but I need to get back to work, and so do the commissioners. Please do the job you were elected to do, and let our library professionals do theirs.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Moore, and I live in unincorporated, the Toledo area. Could you please back off? You're too close. So, I'm speaking in support of Commissioner Swope's move. Genderqueer, I'm holding right here, I own this book. And I have checked it out from the public library a few times. It's a graphic novel depicting teen males engaging in sex, oral sex, and is not sold as an age-restricted book, and is widely suggested to be written for ages 16 and up, but Timberland Library, Regional Library, TRL, classifies it as young adult. To me, young adult means over 18 years old, but TRL labels young adult as 14 years old and up. My degree in profession involves child development, and I can tell you there's nothing adult about this age level, because 14-year-olds are typically experiencing puberty while also susceptible to peer pressure, moodiness, confidence issues. They're searching for a self-identity and are developing their own sense of right and wrong. It's often the most difficult stage of a child's life, and it's the most common age where academic achievement suffers. Library offerings for the social emotional aspects of this age level should focus on topics such as honesty, learning to set goals, showing respect, dealing with conflicts with peers, keeping healthy connections, and they need to be taught that challenges are opportunities to grow, and that failures and mistakes are also pathways to learning. But on the contrary, when TRL purchases and shelves books with our tax dollars for our minor children on getting rid of, in this book, getting rid of breasts, strap-on harnesses, using vibrators, demonstrating masturbation and boys sucking each other's penises, TRL has lost its way and showed they're clearly not qualified in child development and safeguarding materials for our minors of our community. So if TRL does not agree to grade, classify, and reshelve these books in an acceptable manner to our community, then I feel we need to look at envisioning a new and different, higher quality Lewis County owned public library system. And I do have questions on this, your policy right here. One of the words says they were considered harmful and educational health related materials and age appropriate. Those terms right there tell me who is determining. I want to know who's determining, because right now the American Library Association, in my opinion, is their leadership has stated that they are wanting to use public libraries for social change. And we can see that happening right here. So I don't think that American Library Association right now is the qualified people to make those determinations.
Thank you.
It should be parents in the community. And Commissioner Swope.
Greg Rohr.
I speak in support of Commissioner Swope, and I appreciate your time and giving us the comment today. Books are conversations in my mind, and it is clear in your language and your proposal that you look at it the same way. We as parents, as we read, we have conversations within our own minds, our kids, they have conversations within their minds as they read. Also, imagination comes into a large part of the reading process. We can talk about fairy tales and all other type of imaginary creations or that the author might have come up with. The problem I have with this type of material is that it's a conversation and it needs to be classified. So I agree in support with your proposals. The classification of conversations takes place in every part of our life, whether it's a mom and dad conversation we don't have with our kids, to top secret, which we have current electeds at the national level in trouble for not following top secret classifications. How in the world have we gotten to the point where we can just blindly allow any kind of material come out into the public library system without classifying them appropriately? That is my concern. It's not about banning, it's about appropriate conversations for the age level that is provided by the parents when they come in. And the parents, it's absolutely right. The parents have the right to help instruct their kids. The problem I see is that the books just openly put in the shelves as they are currently are not about open conversations. It's about recruitment. And that I have a problem with. Thank you for your time.
Chris Granger.
Chris Granger, Silver Creek. I'd like to start off with this Department of Justice Citizen Guide to U.S. Federal Law and Vicinity. Section 1466A, Title 18, United States Code, makes it illegal for any person knowingly produce, distribute, receive, or possess with intent to transfer or distribute visual representations such as drawings, cartoons, or paintings that appear to depict minors engaged in sexually explicit conduct and are deemed obscene. At first, a first-time offender convicted under this statute faces fines and at least 5 years to a maximum in 20 years in prison. Most states have exempted school libraries from vicinity laws. As more states launch criminal investigations into public school libraries for carrying sexually graphic books, top advocates against child exploitation said the investigation will likely be stymied by little-known exemptions that specifically exclude schools from criminal obscenity laws. Mary McAllister, an attorney for the Child and Parent Rights Campaign, said the exemptions were allowing school libraries and other staff to expose children to material that would otherwise be criminal. If I walked across the street and handed these books to my neighbor's children, I would probably be arrested, McAllister said, but with the exemptions, the school can peddle whatever they want. Reisman Institute was founded by Judith Reisman, who worked as an FBI consultant on child pornography under the Reagan administration. Unfortunately, Reisman passed away unexpectedly. Before her death, Reisman was working alongside with several organizations, including Pornography is Not Education, with lawmakers in several states to pass new anti-obscenity laws for children and repeal what is commonly known as OES, obscenity exemption statutes. States adopted the statutes in the 1960s as part of a drive to create a sex education curriculum based under a Dr. Albert Kinsey's teachings that children are sexual from birth. In Texas, Governor Gregory Abbott and other Republican lawmakers have called for a statewide investigation into the availability of what is called pornographic books. Iowa State Senator Brad Stahn, and spearheading repeal measures of the state's OES, threatened school officials with jail for having the books in their libraries. He said, "My warnings to all," and by the way, ma'am, my wife is donating her time. She signed up.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
My warning to all teachers and the administrators is you're going to be in jail because this is distributing pornography. And I will work my tail end off and it will become law, threatens on at a November school meeting. So far, Maine is the only state to have successfully repealed exemption in recent times. Rebel News reports about the author of Gender Queer that was brought up, a graphic novel containing explicit and sexual material that has been found in public school libraries nationwide and has sparked controversy among parents, asserts that the book is not intended for children. It keeps being called a children's book, but I think that's coming from a misreading of the comic book form. Gender Queer this is from the author himself, herself, is a comic and in full color, but that doesn't mean it's for children. I originally wrote it for my parents and then for older teens who are already asking these questions about themselves. I don't recommend this book for kids, she told the Washington Post in an interview published last week. I can't pronounce her name, Kobadi, and comments came from the following Senator John Kennedy's reading excerpts from the book during the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing last week. That was September, by the way, if you want to look it up on Twitter. A person that's spearheading trying to fight this is Karen England, is fighting all over the country for parents that want to protect their children from pornographic sexual books. She is working to have every state categorized with schools that are promoting this type of material. Her organization is willing to share with others. They also have a legal team that can advise and help best approach the situation. I highly recommend everyone at least listen to Jack Gibbs. He's a pastor. Anyway, he had her on. It's under ban, and you can look it up on YouTube. If you want to check her out, it's Capital Resource Institute, and her site is capitalresource.org. Senator John Kennedy read several lines from Gender Queer, and it was all over social media. Teachers are giving these books out to our children. School boards refuse to allow them to be read. Can you imagine that? I can't read it right now because that's probably not allowed to be done, the actual words from this book. So these are some of the things that the teachers have been upset with. A parent read from the book Gender Queer in Lawn Boy at a board meeting and was shut down by the board, who says that it's obscene. They didn't want it to be read at the school board meeting. A parent at Adam 12 School District attempts to read from the book Gender Queer and gets silenced by the board members. This graphic book containing pornography can't be read in front of adults, yet it's available for kids to be read in the schools across the country.
Thank you, sir.
Somebody applause, please. Will you raise Tracy Dunn?
Hello, my name is Tracy Dunn. I'm from Toledo, Washington. I am the mother of a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old. I'm here today to voice my concern with the Timberland Public Library focusing their materials and showcasing propaganda to over-sexualize children. I homeschooled my children last year, and when I went to the Timberland Library to check out books on government as teaching aid, what I found was book after book of propaganda against conservative government. It openly promotes the hating of our 45th president, Donald Trump, and was time and time again less about the facts and more about opinions. In saying that, I think that it should be non-biased on learning materials. It shouldn't lean one way or the other. I just want to include that part. I could find no book in the library that gave just facts of structural government and how it works for children. Now we are here, having cartoons of pornography in the children's section at that level that the books sit on the shelves. A 4-year-old, my 4-year-old, or any other 4-year-old can grab the book, look through the pages, and see cartoons of people vigorously masturbating. If there is the argument that children need to be able to access material to validate it is normal, then that is a cop-out argument. This is in areas and reach levels of toddlers. For kids who have no business to see images like this, this is public taxpayer-funded library that has no oversight on the propaganda and inappropriate pictures and material it promotes and showcases on their shelves. There is rating system for movies, music, TV, and video games, yet not for our public library system. Parents do have a job to oversee what kids read. So the argument of it's a parent's job to oversee completely negates the fact that kids need to have material to check out that they don't feel comfortable to talk with kids. When you have when you say that, or some people say it's the parent's job to oversee, then that negates the fact that if you're in the library system trying to oversee it, but the kids need to feel comfortable talking about material that they don't feel comfortable talking to their parents about, how are the parents going to oversee that? You just cancel yourself out. I implore this board to help protect our kids. Until this is fixed and until the books are removed from the children's section, I will not bring my kids back to the library. We haven't been back to the library in about a year after we were trying to go there and we're checking and to check out books on government and could find nothing at all that was just plain facts instead of opinions of the writers of the books that they showcase. My job as a parent is to protect my kids from predators. Right now, the library system has now become a child predator. Thank you.
Mary Lynn Chantella. I know we got that last part right.
My name is Marilyn Chantella. I'm here wearing 2 hats. As a parent who raised 3 kids in Chehalis, all going K-12 through the Chehalis School District, also as current president of Friends of the Chehalis Library. Mr. Swope, I watched your silent visit to the library as you flipped through the pages of a book that you chose. That's not pornography. I challenge each of you who use the word pornography to go to your Oxford English Dictionary or Webster or wherever you go and actually look up the word pornography. I also, of course, like the rest of us, read your Chronicle opinion piece, and although it appeared reasonable, here's some words that I picked out, and I'm quoting. You use words like to guide in describing your new policy proposition, providing a framework, navigated with informed choices, commitment to ensure the library remains a sanctuary for all readers. I hope that sounds familiar since you wrote it, okay? That's great. There's nothing there I can disapprove of. That being said, I also watched a short video of you speaking before the congregation of Bethel Church. And in that talk, your vocabulary was
totally different. Totally. There you said our kids are being targeted, and you used that term more than once. I saw, you said, quote, I saw images too graphic to show. Was that the book in the library that you were talking about?
Yep.
Yes.
Really? Oh, graphic, that's not pornography.
We have
There
different
is a war,
standards.
excuse me, I'm at the podium. There's a war going on to sexualize our children. And you know what? There's a war going on even stronger in social media these days, and I suggest maybe you should take that on instead of the local library. You also said that all things they are pushing on our youth. Pushing?
Pushing.
Pushing?
Yeah.
Go in and you choose. Excuse me. I have the floor. Not really.
Thank you.
I read every word of your proposed
That's your time.
policy.
I'm up.
Donate 1 minute.
Thank you, sir.
Donate your entire time.
Can I do a partial or half people?
Has to be whole.
I don't really want to do it.
Okay.
Kyle Corbett. P-O-G-I-T-T.
I think that might be.
Is your first name Kyle?
My name's Kyle.
All right.
I didn't realize my writing was that. My name is Kyle Pratt, from Chehalis, lived in this county a long time. The first couple of speakers that spoke today said that it was the parents' job to oversee the books that their children read. And I agree, but we need to be more involved than many of us are aware of. When I started to hear about some of these books, I'm a parent and a grandparent, and I wanted to know what was being read. So I checked them out. And I would like to say that when a book has come up on the news as being controversial, pornographic, whatever, Timberland Library has never let me down. It's always been there. So I checked out, let's talk about it. Page 16, I know it's sex when a penis goes inside a vagina, but what about all the other stuff? And that's page 16. Pretty much the rest of the book is all the other stuff. Page 18. See, virginity is a silly label people come up with to describe a person who hasn't done a specific sex act, traditionally a cisgender male and woman. Page 82. Anus, both practical and pleasurable. This tight, flexible hole serves two purposes. This is the entrance to your bowels and a passageway for getting food waste, poop out of your body. The opening is also in caps, chock full of sensitive nerves, making it a, can't pronounce that word, basically sensitive zone for touching and penetrating. Page 165. But there's nothing wrong with
enjoying some porn. It's a fun, sugary treat. That's just one book, and that wasn't the worst. There are some parts I just not going to be able to read. One book that's come up already, Genderqueer. Interest in erotic gay fiction has been so prevalent.
Thank you, Kyle. You can submit your comment. If anyone has comment that they weren't able to finish, you can always submit it to Reba and she'll add it to the record.
If you have paper documents you'd like to submit, I'm happy to take those.
Ray Wilson.
Ray Chapman Wilson. Morning, friends. By the way, Sean, thank you for your willingness to consider new info and adjust your vote. Under the First Amendment of our Constitution, governments and public servants are not allowed to interfere with or place any constraint on free speech. This includes endorsing or allowing rating systems for books. First of all, the ratings we see on video games, music, and movies are private. Music and movies are private ratings provided by the creators of that content, not the government, and not endorsed by the government either. Secondly, non-governmental book ratings already exist. They've been around for years. Countless parents around the world have spent unknown hours developing them. You can find them at Goodreads, BookBooks, Redeemed Reader, that's Christian, Book Riot, Book Cave, and Common Sense Media, and other places. There are many reasons why books can't be rated the same as other information. Example is, if my kids relied on these ratings for age-appropriate reading, what we're talking about, my grandkids still may not know the history of Buffalo Bill's efforts to decimate Buffalo, thereby starving countless Native Americans to death in order to make way for Western settlers. Or the book that describes the Pledge of Allegiance that we just spoke earlier, some of us. Written by socialist minister Francis Bellamy. The original salute was this to the flag. That was changed for good reason. You can find those books in the library. Those books would likely be too violent or socialistic based on the ratings that we're talking about potentially. Here's a list of countries that have free speech protections prohibiting governments from endorsement of or promoting book rating systems. Canada, the United States, Europe, among others. Countries that have government-sanctioned book ratings systems: Afghanistan, China, Iraq, Nicaragua, North Korea, Russia, and others. It's a pattern. It's possible to administer the work of Lewis County government, not create problems where none exist in the first place, and leave the hard work of deciding which books children read with their guardians where it belongs. Thank you. There's references on here too for the books.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
Missy Williamson?
Oh, it's Messina.
Messina Williamson.
I'm Messina Williamson from Chehalis. I stand before you today a passionate advocate for a beloved library, a place where a community comes together to celebrate the values of knowledge, diversity, and the freedom to explore the world of ideas. In my personal experience, the library has always stood out as a uniquely special place where our interests are acknowledged and you're made to feel important. It's why, as a mother, I continue to value the great work and experiences the library has provided for our family. However, I must express my strong dissent regarding Commissioner Swope's attempt to gain approval for a proposed policy, which in my view is nothing more than a facade. It is clear that Swope does not write nor influence Timberland Regional Library policy. This is an effort like an empty gesture with no real impact on the library policy. History will surely remember our actions today. It is imperative that we as community stewards do not stand idly by and let the right to read and freely access libraries be taken away from us.
This is a critical moment to assert our belief in fundamental principles of freedom of speech, freedom of press, and the right to read. These rights are enshrined in our First Amendment for a reason. They are the bedrock of our democracy. Why are we advocating for seems to be a dangerous step towards undermining these principles, and I dare say a threat to our freedom. Let me be clear, the Commissioner is not, neither the government, responsible for raising my children. Raising my children is a revolutionary act, and it is a responsibility that you do not have the capacity to fulfill. We, the parents, know what's best for our children, and we cherish their right to explore the world of literature freely. In closing, I implore this board to remember the values of our library stand for: equity, education, and the free exchange of ideas. I urge you not to support this proposed policy that threatens the very essence of our library and our democracy. Let history remember that we stood up for our rights, our freedom, and our library. Lastly, I printed the county strategic plan if you needed a copy. And in 17 pages, it does not mention the library or a rating system. It would be really nice to see us get back to focusing on what you set out to do for Lewis County.
Thank you. Kyle Rasmussen.
I'm Kyle Rasmussen. Is this on? Sorry. No. There it is. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Kyle Rasmussen. Been in the community here about 19 years. Have 3 kids, 9 grandkids living in this community. They're all under the age of 6. And I would love to have the conversation with my kids about sexuality rather than them discover it through a book that they pull off a shelf in a library. I know not everybody has that story, but somebody just shared with us just a moment ago. We heard, look up the definition of pornography is this: it's printed or visual material containing an explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity intended to stimulate erotic rather than aesthetic or emotional feelings. So there's a definition of pornography. I think we could all probably agree on that. And I deal with, in our organization, a group of men, a large group of men over the past several years who have come to an understanding that their marriage has been in trouble and started at a young age of viewing pornographic material. Many of these are young boys, teenagers, and I am trying to pick up the pieces. We're trying to pick up the pieces of guys who have struggled and their wives feel betrayed because of pornographic information and images that began to play a big part in their intimacy and in their marriage and betrayal. So from my perspective, these kinds of materials only break, steal relationships. And I want to speak just as from what I see, the brokenness that pornography brings. It is damaging and very evil. So I want to speak in favor of what you're doing. I think the leadership of this community is going in the right direction, and I appreciate your stance on this to protect the innocence of our kids, of our children. So thank you for taking this hard topic on, and I hope the rest of us will look at what kind of a community we want to have, and look at the marriages that are in trouble today, and we dig deep. We'll find many times that there's a root that started at a very young age. I myself picked up a book, Playboy, when I was 12 years old because a friend gave it to me, and it put images in my mind that changed my perspective, my view of the opposite sex, and I dealt with that for a long time. So thanks for taking the hard case on. Thank you.
Harvey Bamford, I'm a longtime resident of Lewis County, currently lives in Troy. To carry on with what Kyle was speaking, I'm 69 years old. I was subject to pornography at an early age. And it has come until just the last several years. I finally been able to get a victory over that. I praise the Lord for that. So our children are our seedbed. That's where the ground is laid for them for their lives. And if you put them in bad soil, bad results. I think with what Mr. Swope is looking at here is a way to not condemn books, not do the amendment thing, but to look at what seed work is being put into our children and our grandchildren. So, with that said, I support Mr. Swope. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Sonia? McCooley?
I am Sonia Kelly, and my husband Jim and I are Centralia residents for the last 5 years. And let me see here. I am also a retired elementary school librarian, and I have practiced that profession. I've lived in 3 states, Washington, Nevada, and New Mexico, and now I'm back here. And I also am a big user of the library system. And I utilize a lot of the books that I need for a volunteer class that I conduct on a regular basis. And these areas that I've worked have informed me about censorship issues, and also the fact that we have lots of differences. Even in this county, I think we tend to see this county in our own image. And it is changing. Thank heavens we're not the white bread community that I grew up in, and probably many of you grew up in. And I'm not saying that we want to have rampant pornography. That's not what I'm endorsing or promoting at all, but I'm just saying that there are different values and different truths. And so we tend to, like I said, just see ourselves in an image that we, or see others in that image that we have of ourselves. As an adult, I adopted a philosophy and a faith that had as its root the independent investigation of truth. I would never have found my true self if I had not had opportunities to be exposed to alternate beliefs. By reading about them and exploring different people and ways of living, your truth and mine can be different, but it doesn't make mine less valid or yours more correct. This suggested rating system is unnecessary to manage what can be accessed by our kids. I think that the library system has an adequate system, and you as a parent can go and protest a particular book. You have that right, but you must have read the book. This has happened to me all the time as a school librarian. I had 1 or 2 parents come in and complain about a particular book, but they had read it, or even, maybe they had read a portion of it and they took it completely out of context. So being an involved parent and having dialogue about issues and differences is so much more valuable than an arbitrary rating system that borders on censorship. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Wayne Van Jordan.
Wayne Van Wertheijen of Chehalis. For one, regarding the obstruction of emergency services thing that was on the agenda, I don't want it to be interpreted in a way that would punish people for refusing help. That's one thing I'm afraid of with that kind of ordinance. Plus, it's a matter of state jurisdiction. The state legislature is already dealing with that, so I don't know why it was on our agenda for today at all. Regarding the children's books, I'm glad I was able to read what I wanted to when I was young. It didn't harm me one bit to be able to just choose on my own to read. And I don't think we need any change in the library policy. It's been good for decades. Regarding the elections, the one girl was mentioning earlier, we have the most secure and accessible elections in the nation in Washington State with our mail-in ballot system, and there's no need to change it. We're on speed in the nation how to do it. That's all.
Thank you. Linda Johnson. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Linda Johnson, and I live in Chehalis. I'm a retired counselor who specializes in working with adult and child victims of sexual assault. These books are the perfect grooming tool for offenders of sexual assault. Perusing the pictures in comic book form, no less, while the offender states, "I got it from the library, so it must be okay." I could relate many painful stories from survivors, many who stated that the abuse started with viewing pictures of sexual content. These books cause gender confusion and confusion about safe boundaries of the child's own body. It angers me that my tax dollars are being spent to place these books in public libraries. Parents have to monitor their child's TV viewing, phones, what is being taught in school, and now even the libraries are not safe places. So I support this rating system as proposed. Thank you.
Christina Riley.
Good morning, Christina Riley, Winlock. I want to thank you, Commissioner Swope, for being courageous. I first and foremost want to say, I believe that our public libraries are an amazing resource. They bring the internet to those of us who struggle without it. They bring books that allow us to have imagination and research history. However, I am in strong support of a rating system. A rating system for our library is like a huge benefit as it provides a reader a comprehensive understanding of a book's worth prior to borrowing it. Ratings enable readers to quickly evaluate the quality of a book and determine, does this align with my expectation and my values? This results in time saving and a very informed decision. And I've heard a lot of folks talk about censorship. A rating system is not a censorship because the definition of censorship is prohibiting or suppressing parts of a book, of films, music, video games. Clearly that is not what is taking place here today. Movie ratings were provided to allow parents an advanced informative decision on content that is going to be within that movie. It lets you know if it's appropriate for your children of any age. It does not say that a child cannot attend. A system within our library will do the exact same. Last year, my daughter found a book in the library, a library. She's a 4th grader, and she was truly upset by what she opened up. This was a book that was blue, it's her favorite color. She's seen characters, she thought it would be neat. It is not what she expected. And in 4th grade, she made the decision that she would hide that book underneath the bookshelf so that no other student would see that book. That was an unfair situation that my daughter found herself in, and I want to stand here today to commend you on your work in hopes that Commissioner Brunner and Commissioner Pollock will stand with parents of Lewis County and give us a tool that will help us to be parents to our beautiful youth. Thank you.
Andrew Dutton.
Good morning, my name is Andrew Dutton from Toledo, Washington. Commissioner Swope, I want to give you my full support of what you're doing in protecting our children. Thank you very much for facing this fight. Just to add on, Cal beat me to the definition of pornography, so I just wanted to add on to that. I looked up what is child predatory behavior. In the context of identifying sexual predators, predatory behavior specifically pertains to actions aimed at grooming, coercing, or engaging in sexual exploitation with others, typically those who are less able to protect themselves, such as children or individuals in vulnerable situations or circumstances. When I look around here and I see people in support of keeping these books in our library and keeping our children able to not only read these books, but then in turn hide them from the parents when the parents ask about it. I keep hearing the argument, parents are supposed to raise their children. Well, then let us raise our children. Teachers, teach the STEM lessons like you're supposed to. And as far as the predatory definition, I don't think there's much else need to be said. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Julie O'Malley-Powell.
Julie O'Malley-Powell. I'm a Lewis County resident and candidate for the Chehalis School Board. I'm here in support of Commissioner Swope, who stands on our libraries. It's true, parents need to be responsible for their children and guide their children, but we can't be with them 24 hours a day. And it used to be that the library was a safe place so we could send our child to keep them from hanging around the streets getting into trouble. I strongly believe there's forces in our society today that are trying to attack our children's innocence. And I think we've been passive long enough, and it's time to stand up and to fight for our children and keep our children's physical and mental health safe. Thank you.
Ginger Ayers.
The language of the proposed policy is in direct contradiction to the materials of Commissioner
State your
Swope.
name and your city of residence.
I'm Ginger. I live in Centralia. The language of the proposed policy is in direct contradiction to the materials Commissioner Swope has fear-mongered about on social media and while politicking from the pulpit of Bethel Church. It's perfectly normal. The title in question that Mr. Swope has called attention to has been in circulation for 15 years and covers exactly the sort of educational and health materials that should be protected. I have little faith that item A will truly ensure access to educational and health-related materials, and that is exactly the sort of material being used to rally censorship efforts and equated to their own subscriptions to Hustler and Playboy that they deny personal responsibility for seeking out and consuming. I do not care if discussions of sexual acts may be personal and public. Comprehensive sex education is one of the best ways to actually protect children from sexual violence and predation. And complex and morally gray stories prepare adolescents for the murky realities of our complex world. Jurisdictions that have implemented such avenues for censorship have found themselves inundated by removal requests, overwhelmingly submitted by a handful of partisans regarding books by LGBTQ authors and authors of color. One Virginia resident has submitted so many removal requests that the local school district has had to employ 11 full-time staff to handle her demands for censorship alone. You speak of the cost of $20 books to taxpayers, but what are the costs of operating a proposed censorship mechanism? Where will funding come to field a team to handle these requests? Another commenter cited Texas as a beacon of progress on this issue, a state with nearly 50% higher rates of teen pregnancy than the U.S. average. Is that the future we want for Lewis County teens? Is that our model of success? You are free to not take your children to the library. You're not free to dictate what materials are available to the public all across central western Washington. That's my time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chamber that would like to offer public comment? So we'll go with, just say your name and your residence, and then we'll go with it.
My name is Carolyn Gold, and Thank you. My name is Carolyn Goble. My name is Carolyn Goble, and it's Goble. I live in the Randall Micro area, and I am the mother of a transgender child who is the most incredible kid I've ever seen. I didn't understand when she first came to me, just sobbing her heart out with her head on my chest. I can't handle who I am. I didn't know what she was talking about. I was very, very naive. And she says, Mama, I can't handle who I am. So of course we put her into counseling. 5 years of counseling. She's still, now at 21, she still says, I'm not Caitlin, Mom. I'm I'm Daniel. And you have to understand me. I accepted her 110%. Because when you hear the racking sobs of your child, not able to identify themselves, not able to look in a mirror, it rips your heart out as a parent, first. Secondly, people talk about these children or adults who discovered this about themselves and never knew what it was, as being recruitment or encouraging other people to join them. My daughter told me, Mom, not only do I not ever want anyone to look at me physically in my life, she said I wouldn't wish the pain, not only emotionally, but physically, that she goes through and will have to go through so many surgeries to just accept herself in a small way. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So having things that can help people understand who they are, they don't need the hate, they don't need the prejudice, they need the acceptance to be who they are, whoever that is. Now, myself, my bedroom door is closed. My bedroom door remains closed. As a heterosexual female, it's not anybody's business, but neither is it my daughter's. No one should have their doors wide open. Censorship? No. Education? Absolutely. Perhaps age appropriate is not quite as age appropriate as it should be. But also, the other issue that I have with this and why I was against it from the beginning was because across the United States, this wasn't introduced as censorship. It was introduced as book banning. Now, I have not heard you, Mr. Swope, ever use that word. However, it started in Nazi Germany in 1930s with censorship. And it led eventually to genocide. Seeing that terrifies me because I'm the mom of one of these people.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ted Bundy. I live in Chehalis. I've lived in Lewis County for 38 of my 41 years. I'm here in support of Commissioner Swope. As I pulled up this book in question, even on the cover of the book, it says for ages 10 and up. The book that was brought out earlier said this isn't for young children. So in their own, the authors are also trying to put their own essential rating system on this of who they think should be reading this. He's not saying ban the book. He's saying let's make it appropriate for certain ages and determine that. Also, as a parent, my wife and I live in the community. I don't know about you guys, all of my bills are significantly higher right now, so both my wife and I work. And it's really hard. I've coached my kids in 7 different sports. I've never missed a field trip. I've never missed a medical appointment for my children. So it's not like I'm an absent parent. But when my wife and I go on a date night to try and maintain that relationship also, my mother-in-law took my children to the library. And I don't know if you guys noticed, the book is for 10 and older, but it's at 2 feet. I don't know many 10-year-olds that are 2 feet tall. So the access that's available should be appropriate to the age, and the authors themselves are telling us what age they think is appropriate. So trying to rate it themselves, Mr. Swope is trying to give a system that helps the parents that are constantly busy, coaching, sports, both parents working, all of that stuff. It's not the parents that are not trying that are running into this. There should be a system where a parent can say, I want my kid to read that. I don't think it should be opposed. It's a parent's decision. But to say, just leave it free, I don't think that's the right decision. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chamber that would like to offer public comment? Okay. We'll go with the gentleman in the back, and then we'll go with you following that.
Honor, resident of Chehalis. I've been here for almost 20 years. I don't think the issue here is censorship. People keep saying censorship. What we need to do is protect those who are under the age that don't need to read that kind of material. If you go to a store to buy a pornographic magazine, you have to be 18 years old. If you go to the library to just browse, all you gotta do is be able to walk and pull a book out. These books need to be put so they are checked out by parents. If the parents want to use those to educate their children, so be it. Check it out and share it with their children. Don't allow someone else's child to pick it up and educate themselves, or possibly an older teenager to use that as a grooming tool. Pornography is terrible. It has deep roots in older lifestyles, predatory issues. But let's protect our children. We raised both of our kids here in Lewis County. They each had an account they could go and pick out their books. My wife and I were always there. I'm afraid if my 4-year-old had pulled that book out and gave it to me, I'd have blown a gasket when if I had an officer to come up there and calm things down. It's not the way it should be. If you're going to have those kind of books, put them up where only adults can get them. I don't know what the age should be. 18 is what the state says for pornographic material in a store. Why do we not have the same standards? Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Swope.
Can I have you say your name and city?
Excuse me, my name is Judy Bell. I'm from Centralia. I'm a long-time resident of Centralia. And so I wonder what your true motive is. And it goes back to mass and the library. You're somebody who's always talking about freedom. You refuse to have a mask. You refuse to have vaccination. Your philosophy is to spread disease to anybody you want, or to kill them, put them in the hospital. And people do that with colds all the time, but with a pandemic, it's different. People need to care enough about other people to support them and keep them healthy. If you had surgery in the operating room, you'd probably say to the surgeons, no mask. I want my freedom, no mask. And they would say you're crazy. So it makes me wonder about why are you stirring people up? You did about the mask and you're making an issue about the mask that shouldn't even be on the table. And now you're stirring up people in the community, at Bethel Church, with something that shouldn't even be an issue. Why are you doing it? I think it's purely political. You just have to be out there saying, stirring that crisis to make your own self feel good. So, anyway, I think that you ought to be truthful and really think of kids, because if you don't care about kids, you would expose them to disease and kill them. You don't care about kids, you don't care about people, you care about yourself. So I wish you would just back off and make it reality and let the library have the freedom they deserve to put the books in the library and let people have the freedom to be healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chamber that would like to offer public comment? With that, go ahead, Diana. After this, we'll move on to our online participants.
It's on around.
Hey, my name is Lori Lawson. I'm from Chehalis.
I'm a 25-year veteran and recently retired from the military. I am also a mother of 9 children. So I understand the desire to protect the hearts of your children. I understand how important the youth are, but it is not the place of the government to legislate morality. It just isn't. And any rating system is going to be determined by your morality or someone else's. It's not appropriate. I did not give up 25 years of my life for certain people to get to decide what other certain people get to do. That's not the way of it. This is juvenile. We have other things, much more important things, to manage. Thank you.
Mary Harris, and if you're online and you want to offer public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. We'll start with Mary Harris.
Mary Harris, Sales. I have an AA in early childhood education and been working on a BA in elementary and special education. Most consider me to be a conservative when it comes to the media that my kids consume. My 12-year-old has a flip phone with no Wi-Fi and is only on the internet with permission and supervision. My 20-year-old was not allowed to have a phone in their room overnight until they were 18 years old. There are systems in place to ensure that the books that are placed appropriately based on reading level, content, and development. Did you know that the collection development librarian, the person that curates and purchases books for the library, is required to have a master's degree in library science? The staff provides parents with resources to help them decide if the book is right for their child. For example, Common Sense Media, the school library journal, is Publishers Weekly. Parents have tools in the library in the form of computers, librarians, and their smartphones to access information regarding books and media. The proposed rating system is very subjective. What one person finds offensive, another will find perfectly acceptable. This would cost the library system an unnecessary amount of money that would be wasted using programs and resources that we have come to enjoy. Who will make these decisions? Educated people that understand the library and child development, or random citizens full of opinions but no data? Mr. Swope, you talk a lot about personal choice and difference from mass mandates, but when it comes to parents making choices for what books their children have access to, you feel they can't be trusted. Parents might use the tool, but it's perfectly normal, to supplement conversations with their children about health and sex education. Child development data tells us that when we educate children about consent and use proper names for anatomy, they are less susceptible to predatory and grooming behaviors. They are less likely to be victims of child sexual assault. Predators prefer children that are uneducated. Many refer to this book as porn. The key part that people forget is that the definition always includes that it is intended to cause sexual excitement. And I see no intent for that here. An elementary age child has far more access to porn on their smartphone or tablet than they do at the library. And that is where parents need to pay more attention. Since you spoke at Bethel on Sunday, the church has no more say in the direction of the public library than it does in the public school or in this meeting. I am a Christian. My faith guides the decision of my house and my house alone. If you want your children to only have access to media that you deem fit based on your morals, then only expose them to your personally curated home or church library. It is inappropriate for a politician to speak at the pulpit, period. This isn't the first attack on the library, and please let it be the last. Please do not implement a subjective rating system that will ultimately destroy what we have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Denise Matthews.
Wonderful. Hello, my name is Denise Matthews. I have lived in Lewis County for the entirety of my 40 years on Earth. I currently reside in Centralia. Hello, fellow constituents and commissioners. First of all, I have quite a few things I would like to call out, so I'm going to go to them. I've heard a lot of people talk about school libraries this and teachers this. Timberland Regional Library is not a school library. They are not teachers. My grandfather was a teacher. He was a college English professor. In fact, he was the head of the college English department at Centralia College for years. His name is Tom Green. I can't tell you how many of my teachers spoke so highly of him throughout the years. I have been a card-holding member of TRL since the mid-'80s. What you're asking to do is ridiculous. I'm concerned about the amount of obvious conspiracy, like there's forces at work in our... What is going on here? What are you doing? You need to go back and do your job and leave the library alone. I heard people talk about people being in jail over this. This is very concerning with the threats, and it almost feels like bullying against certain members of our community. I would like you to just imagine if the roles were reversed. What if someone was trying to implement our views and put rating systems on something that you wanted, like guns? But you guys are all about the Second Amendment, but just seem to forget about the first. You need to go back and do your job, commissioners, and trying to manage the Timberland Regional Library system is not it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else online that would like to offer public comment? You can unmute yourself or use the raise your hand feature. With that, we'll go ahead and talk about the Timberland Library real quick. We have a board of trustees here. So I want to read you a couple things, and I have the policies from Timberland Regional Library. The proposed language that I have submitted to you all today is actually stemming from a policy that I found within Timberland Library. So the ALA, the American Library Association, these are some of the things that they state regarding censorship. A person's right to use the library should not be denied, abridged because of origin, age, background, or views. The right to use the library includes free access to and unrestricted use of all the services, materials, and facilities the library has to offer. Every restriction on access and use of library resources based solely on chronological age, apparent maturity, education level, literacy skills, emancipatory and other legal status of use violates Article 5. And then moving down just a couple paragraphs, it says children and young adults unquestionably possess First Amendment rights, including the right to receive information through the library, print, sound, media, data, social media, online applications, games, technologies, programs, and other formats. Constitutionally protected speech cannot be suppressed solely to protect children or young adults from ideas or images a legislative body believes to be unsuitable for them. Libraries and their library government bodies should not resort to age restriction in an effort to avoid or avoid actual or anticipated objections, because only a court of law can determine whether or not content is constitutionally protected. So, and I know that our library system, that this is in part posted on their policies. And I just want to be very clear, the reason why, as a commissioner, I have taken this up, we do appoint board members to the board of trustees for the Timberland Library. The other aspect of this is taxpayer money is being used to fund the library. So government is already a part of this process. We, as taxpayers, pay $3.5 million for the library. $24 million in its entirety across 5 different counties. The reason why I bring up that aspect is because in their policies, they have a compliance measures for Children's Internet Protection Act. In order to comply with Children's Internet Protection Act, the Timberland Regional Library has taken certain measures to assist in the safe and effective use of the internet by all minors. To address the issue of access by minors to adult matters on the internet, including material that is harmful to minors, the library maintains an internet content filter designed to block internet access that contain adult content, nudity, graphic depictions of sexual activity. This also includes content determined to be obscene, child pornography, or harmful to minors. The filter is designed to not block sex education sites or health sites. The library's public wireless internet is filtered for all patrons. So just in that piece, and there's two pieces to there. This is legislated from the government to protect minors from having access to pornographic or other harmful things. When it comes to book banning, in a lot of ways, I feel that is something that is a myth, because there is not book banning that is going on when you look at the different libraries across the U.S. Every book that I went through to find if it was at Timberland Library is there. To Kill a Mockingbird. Some of the other books, I probably spent a good 45 minutes to an hour trying to see if they actually had books that were not available at Timberland Library. And oftentimes I feel that whole narrative is to push an agenda to not do anything. And yes, I do want to protect children. And when I do have constituents that come to me that they're frustrated that they can't allow their child to go to the library, it's not a safe space for them, that's an issue. The library allows unattended minors at the age of 8 to go into the library. And I understand that a rating system, it would be a very tough task to do. And I know that we've brought up Common Sense Media, and I looked up the book. It's Perfectly Normal: Changing Bodies, Growing Up, Sex, and Sexual Health. And then when you scroll down to Is It Any Good, Harris and the illustrator Michael take a straightforward and inclusive approach portraying a diverse range of ethics and body types, discussing different religious and personal beliefs, and encouraging respect for individual preferences. They also dive into contemporary concerns about cyberbullying, respecting boundaries, sexting, and online pornography and misinformation. Parents should review it first to make sure it's right for their own children and prepare for follow-up. And it also has a rating 12 plus. What I'm asking is that our Board of Trustees would take on this matter. The government isn't going to, the county commissioners is not going to legislate. But what we would like to see, we would like those that represent the Board of County Commissioners, our Board of Trustees, to take on this to provide some type of mechanism that's going to protect our children and to create it to be a safe place for our children. When I asked the library staff why they were mixing controversial books with children's books in the same area, I asked the question, what if a child was to take one of these books, the graphic novel has been talked about several times, was next to children's books. What if they take that and look at it? I mean, you take any responsibility? She goes, oh, no. That's on the parents. The parents should be with the child the entire time. I said, but I responded back stating that my parents used to bring us to the library and we would go to the children's section, we would find our books, they would find their books, and then we would check them out and say, oh, well, that's not the time we live in anymore. So you're really telling me that the library cannot be a safe place for children. And all I've done now is not necessarily going with the rating system, but expanding the policy that they have already put in place. It's not censorship, it's just making sure that we're giving our young people the tools that they need to succeed, and not putting tripwires up for them that's going to create issues down the road. And I ask you, I'm so thankful that each of you came and you voiced your concerns. And that's where we have to have this discussion. Is there a middle ground to be able to have? And I think that could be a great tool for a parent. The book that we've talked about several times, the book that I showed online, that could be a tool that a parent could use for their kids. And they should have access to that. Nobody should be banning books, ever should be banning books. But let's put books in appropriate places to make sure that our youngest aren't getting books that are not appropriate for them. If we're setting up guidelines for the internet because we do not want our children or our teenagers to access things that could be harmful towards them, we should do the same for other library material, other books that could be detrimental to them. And that's where I just ask that our Board of Trustees would take that back and take that consideration, and even what I've put forward, can we have a discussion at the Board of Trustee level to put something in place that's going to ensure protections for our minors and to make it a safe place for all people, including our children. I don't know if any of you have anything that you want to say on that.
We're a nation of laws. We have laws that are created that provide moral guidelines and parameters for all of us to live by. I believe the public library system does not have adequate controls to protect our minor children. And I echo Commissioner Swope's sentiment that we're asking the Timberland Board of Trustees to move forward with creating a common sense rating system that empowers parents, provides them with the tools they need to protect the innocence of our children and to stop the over-sexualization of children at this young age. Very simple. I know that that's met with a lot of resistance from folks, but I'm asking you to seek in your heart what's true and what's noble and what's good. What's good for our children, what's good for our community. Let's do that. Let's be a people that protect them. Let's be a people that put them first and provide those kind of guidelines. It's important. It's important for the future generations. And that's what I'm asking that our Timberland folks will do. They'll apply the same common sense rules that they applied for the internet to those books and put them in places where they will only be accessed through parental permission.
Knowledge is power. And our source of knowledge is where we can get an education. And the source of education that is free to all people in Lewis County, in the By County area, is the Timberland Regional Library system. And I'm thankful that we have educated library professionals in there working very, very hard to make information accessible to all. We've gone through quite the gyration here of introducing a rating policy, and then just this morning provided with a different policy, significantly launched back from the rating policy. But we are still looking for restrictions. The place for restrictions is at the parental level. The place for the library is to be a resource for the parents to find out everything they need to know about the materials that are available there and to educate all folks. If you have a question about materials, go to the librarian. If you have questions about what is in the materials, how to evaluate the materials, go to the librarian. They will be more than happy to assist you in this. And so what I see here is us just being redundant and attempting to take over the job of the Timberland Library Board and the By Counties that are involved in it. Say, let the librarians do what they are trained to do, let the board members look at it, and let the parents get the information that they need to parent their children, and if there are still issues, to go before the Timberland Regional Library Board at their meetings.
Commissioner Pollock, are you suggesting that the Timberland Library roll back their internet restrictions for suppressing different things that youth would have access to?
I haven't heard any discussions of them rolling back their internet policy.
I'm asking, are you suggesting, because you just said that we should not be restricting, yet the Timberland Library restricts internet access for minors all the way up to the age of 17 to block things that, like I read before, that could be harmful, adult contents, obscenity, nudity, sexual contents, Are you suggesting that they should roll back that for those restricted items?
I am not suggesting that, and also I didn't find Hustler in the children's section.
Not a comical time, but all this does is add the same layer of protection to children that they are requiring when it comes to internet access. And I think that is common sense, it's logical. We don't want to be doing things that are going to be harming our children. I know as a father of 4 kids, I want my kids to be able to go into the library and not pull something out that will do damage down the road. Listened to an interview last night from Ted Bundy, and he attributed to finding pornography at a young age where it got him into a vicious battle that led him down a road. I'm not saying that everyone's going to be a Ted Bundy, but for someone at the very last day of his life to be able to look back and say, it was those things right there that set me on a course that I didn't want to go on. Let's make sure that we're ensuring that we're taking away the harmful things that are going to endanger our youth. And if you're not for this all this does is expand it to the rest of the material in the library. So if you're not for this, then it would seem like that you're not for the internet restrictions as well. Is that correct?
I already answered that.
I didn't hear anything.
Excuses of serial killers. Wow.
Yeah, I am not hearing any discussion about rolling back their internet policy, and I'm not interested in challenging their internet policy. Also, I don't know how their policy specifically applies to whether there are really any functional changes that you are proposing with their current policy. You slapped this on our desks this morning when we came in. You haven't had any time.
I, for one, I look forward to talking with our representatives, the trustees, as well as the library leadership, the rest of the leadership of Timberland Library as we continue to move this forward. I appreciate your attendance today, Mr. Bland.
Thank you. We're going to move into our agenda, so if you want to stay for that exciting part, we'll recess for a few minutes.